We're greatly honored to have presented our work on the PROOF study. Where does cholangiocarcinoma stand in regard to systemic therapy nowadays? Understandably, systemic chemotherapy is still the mainstay. Gemcitabine, Cisplatin remain the mainstay of therapy. However, of course, now we add onto it a checkpoint inhibitor. We have the durvalumab, and now there's new data also on the adding on of the pembrolizumab. However, the incredible thing that has been going on in regard to cholangiocarcinoma is the advent of therapies that address specifically certain genetic alterations. And this is really where the PROOF study has looked into the alteration or a genetic change that's next generation sequencing based FGFR2 fusion. Data has shown that the FGFR2, we presume that probably occur in about 10 to 15% of the patient. We found out that probably it's about 7 to 8% of the patients. We already looked at the anti-FGFR2 therapies in second-line therapies. There has been many studies in that regard, all of them really impressively doing very well. Probably we did some of them collaboratively, and others we did ourselves, leading them from Sloan Kettering Cancer Center in New York. Understandably, everybody was aiming to see how can we move the anti-FGFR2 therapy from the second line into first line therapy, knowing that they really have a great response and they can provide a great response of therapy. As such, the PROOF study was to look into a randomized trial of gemcitabine plus cisplatin versus the Infigratinib, which is the anti-FGFR2 that's in question over here. Why gemcitabine cisplatin? Because at that time the durvalumab and later on the pembrolizumab data was not available yet, so it was the standard care at that point in time. The study did not necessarily do very well in regard to accrual, and that's why we proudly are presenting that data at GI ASCO, because we wanted to feature that we actually screened close to about 1,200 patients. And of those, only about 7 to 8% were really screened positive for FGFR2 fusion, and they were really ultimately put on the study. We ended up only with 29 patients on the Infigratinib arm, with a 2-to-1 randomization, and only 19 patients on the gemcitabine cisplatin arm. Understandably, this was not really the accrual that we would like to have to make sure that this study carry on to become a complete phase 3 trial. And as such, there was a decision that was made by the sponsor to stop the study. We felt this is an opportunity, a lot of learning from the findings that we have seen and reported on the data. To be fair, and will clarify that the data that came out from it is super limited, so we can't really make any conclusion from, like, for example, the survival data or the PFS data would not necessarily stand out. Actually, it was not even reaching out a median because, of course, it's a limited number of patients. On the other hand, we saw a response which was really impressive for the Infigratinib, but to be fair, we know that already. It's like already documenting from the phase 2 trial beforehand. And of course, we spoke about some adverse events that could occur with the combination, correction with the Infigratinib, as well as with the combination with gemcitabine cisplatin. Mainly the things that were really new to experience in regard to the anti-FGFR2, among which the retinal changes, hyperphosphatemia, and of course some metabolic changes as well. Now, however, the aim of presenting that study, and we're very grateful for, and I'm talking here on behalf of all of my co-authors, we're very grateful for the scientific committee at ASCO to accept our abstract, because we felt this is a very important message to pass on, that this study failed to accrue because this is, number one, a very rare cancer to begin with a very rare alteration, as we mentioned, like barely 78%. And as such, a phase 3 trial will be next to impossible to be accruing in an appropriate, reasonable time or time span. Number one, the sponsor decided to actually retract the drug and to stop development of the drug. And as such, there's an asset that really was lost because we did not have the true mechanism where we can really prove that it does work or does not. our message, if anything, for the different agencies, including agencies here in the U.S., is that probably for a rare cancer like cholangiocarcinoma, with a rare genetic alteration like the FGFR2, maybe a phase 3 trial is not going to be the mechanism that we can really get to an approval of the drug. As such, maybe a phase 2 looking into robust responses should be sufficient for us to really move this forward so we can provide those therapies for the patients. Where does this take us in regard to cholangiocarcinoma? If anything, the advent of the checkpoint inhibitors definitely is now the landmark that's really showing that they are the right therapy for first-line treatment. And the genetic alterations, among which, of course, the FGFR2 fusion, other FGFR mutations, as well as IDH1 mutation, and also we have the HER2, add to some others like the BRAF V600D and plus more, are coming into more second-line therapy, and of course to be looked into as options of therapy if patients to progress on chemotherapy plus checkpoint inhibitors. Could any of them go into first line? Maybe, but I think we have a little bit of novel approach that will not really destine any of those superb assets that are for different targeted therapies into the same failure that we actually were responsible, and we are proud that we presented at ASCO because it's important for everybody to learn from it. Again, I thank you very much for having me, and thank you very much for that.